Hello, and welcome once again to another recap video on The White Lotus Season 3. And today we are talking about Episode 3, which is called The Meaning of Dreams.
I was just about to check that. Yep, The Meaning of Dreams. Nice work.
So Rick and Chelsea, their storyline, Rick, posing as a producer, strikes up a conversation with hotel owner Shritala.
Hollander.
Who's that?
That's her name, Shritala Hollander.
Claiming he has a project for her. Later, he and Chelsea go into town to buy cannabis, but things spiral when Rick, under the influence, frees snakes at a show, resulting in Chelsea being bitten by a cobra.
Terrifying.
The incident sparks a philosophical debate about freedom and morality, where Chelsea tells Rick that even if she were to die in this lifetime, and any future lifetime, she would come back again and again to haunt him.
I loved that line. All right, next up we have Jacqueline, Kate, and Leslie, played by Carrie Coon, Michelle Monaghan, and Leslie Bibb. And the three of them, as per usual, are chatting about Valentine, the masseuse slash wellness guy, trying to get Leslie to hook up with him. And in addition, they have this moment at dinner where it's revealed that Kate attends church regularly in Austin, and Lori and Jacqueline don't really understand. They say, isn't that awkward? Isn't everyone really conservative in Texas, Bible thumping type thing? And Kate's not really understanding. She goes, why would it be awkward? Why would it be awkward? And then they kind of slowly begin to realize that maybe she is conservative. But, oh, no, she's independent. Her husband's a conservative. But you didn't vote for Trump, right? Says Carrie. And then Leslie Bibb slash Kate make the most amazing face I've ever seen on television. And basically doesn't answer, implying that she probably did vote for Trump. Later on that night, she sees her friends chatting about her. You can hear words about Trump. She realizes that they're gossiping about her, judging her for her choices, and she looks very devastated.
The final transition, because all these three women pair off and talk shit about the third outlier. So this was the final transition in that last person. All right, who's our next group?
So let's go with maybe Belinda and Greg. Belinda's played by Natasha Rothwell. Greg is played by John Greers.
Belinda, who now is our only, Belinda and Greg, our only connection to season 1 of the season, is that right?
I think that's right.
And Greg, by the way, is Tanya's ex-husband, who we believe, at least to our knowledge, is dead. At dinner, Belinda confronts Greg, and Greg denies knowing Tanya, but Belinda is not convinced, heightening the episode's mysterious atmosphere. When Belinda returns home, she hears a strange noise.
We'll have to come back to that. I have questions.
Which we don't know what the noise is.
I don't even know if I heard the noise.
I thought someone was like whispering.
That's frightening.
All right, who else?
Who's next? All right, so now we have Gytok and Mook. Mook is played by Lisa, who is a member of Blackpink and apparently is like as big as Beyonce basically is in Southeast Asia. But what's going on with them is basically Gytok remains very interested in Mook, and I take it back. He definitely genuinely has feelings for her. He kind of tells her that he's really focused on moving up in his career. He goes to the owner of the hotel and says basically, if you need an extra bodyguard or you want to tap a certain bodyguard, like I'll volunteer. And he kind of tells Mook this in an attempt to woo her, because it seems like she wants somebody who has their eyes on greater pastures, I guess, or grander pastures. And Mook seems like kind of interested in that, I suppose. But then later on at the end, the other security guards approach Gytok and basically tell him to watch out, and that he was almost fired for letting the robber into the hotel in the first place. So it definitely seems like a dangerous situation is brewing, all because of sweet, sweet love. And then what's going on with our favorite family, the Ratliffs?
The Ratliffs. Oh boy. So the beginning of the episode starts out with Victoria has a troubling dream involving a potential disaster. She's covered in duvet and walks out into a stormy ocean.
And their North Carolina house is behind them.
After waking, she overhears Tim's stressful phone call about a scandal he's hiding from her. The family discusses the dream, and Tim demands everyone disconnect from their devices, but deeper issues bubble beneath the surface. And to go further into that is Tim's son, the oldest son, the Schwarzenegger guy, Patrick, starts getting phone calls on his cell phone. And Tim is closer to the phone, so he keeps like hanging up. And Patrick's like, well, what is going on? Like, is it the secretary or whatever? Like, telling us like what's going on? And that's where Tim like waves it off. He keeps like denying the family. And then so much so that even with the wife who seems to like not want to acknowledge anything that's going on. Like she overhears the phone call at night but doesn't address it. Even she's becoming concerned about what's going on with the family.
And she does eventually ask him at the episode's end, and he doesn't answer. And there's also like an interesting beat where he does take one of Victoria, played by Parker Posey's, pills, but
keeps denying that he
needs
pills.
them, and then later on he goes back and he takes another one. Like the one that she hands to him, he kind of accepts, but then he goes back into her medicine jar, or whatever you want to call it, and takes one out, which could mean that he's extremely stressed, or it could imply that he perhaps has a secret addiction to these pills.
I think he has a secret addiction.
Ooh. Okay, what are some of your other thoughts about this episode? Any moments that stood out? Any
overall
thoughts?
I said it to you at the end of the episode, is that I felt like this was more of a setup to future episodes. Like it kind of felt like a filler episode, which I was reflecting even more. It makes sense because last night was the Oscars, so they probably knew that. I mean, if they were to choose an episode to be more the most filler, probably the night of the Oscars would be the best night to do that.
Or the one that's like setting the stage.
The stage. And I said that forgetting all that happened with Chelsea and Rick with the snakes was pretty hilarious and entertaining. But I think that for me, the story, like I'm most curious what's happening with the Ratliff family. And this episode, it just didn't seem like there was much, like it didn't really develop Tim's like wanting to deny anything's happening. And then also his wife kind of catching on to what's happening. I thought was interesting. And then I also saw it showed Patrick in a new light where he was still a creep in this episode. But he seemed to be like genuinely
interested in getting ahead at work and being connected to work. And I will say, that's an interesting way to frame it. They are moving us through that storyline very slowly. Like in fact, with all the storylines, like we have a hint of the mystery with each character, but we don't quite know what the whole story is. Like we notice something odd going on in their family dynamic with the Ratliffs.
Yeah.
We think it might be sexual in nature just based on Saxon / Patrick Schwarzenegger's kind of gross way of being, and Lachlan's, I think the character's name is played by Sam Nivola or something like that. He is clearly looking for direction, and then the sister Piper is we find out in this episode, trying to potentially live in Thailand for a year via the Buddhist temple that she's been visiting, and supposedly there to set up for an interview. So we get little like hints at what's going on, but there's no big reveal, no bubbling over of tension. The tension's just still rising and rising and rising.
The closest we got to it is when Belinda approaches Greg.
Yes.
Which kind of, it was very strange. She was sitting down with the Thai wellness man, and she's like, I think I know this man. And then she just gets up and walks over to him. I was like, oh, there's no...
Well,
I thought they were going to play it up more, that she was thinking through. I didn't think she would approach him so
I think it's because in the last episode she saw him, so there was that beat. And then this episode she was saying to Porn Chai, who's the man who's teaching her, or instructing her with the wellness, the reason that she's there, she tells him at dinner, I think I know that man. Or before she sees Greg, she goes, I was having a really hard time before I came here. A beloved member of my staff at the White Lotus.
The Four Loko.
The White Lotus in Kauai passed away, meaning Armand. And then I was supposed to inherit all this money, or I was supposed to get all this money from this woman who promised me, who said I was so good at my job, that so I could finally open my own spa. It was a dream of mine. And then she flaked on me, meaning Tanya. And then right after that, she sees Greg again. And it was her talking about Tanya that made her realize where she knew Greg from.
Okay, yeah.
And then I think she was like, I'll go approach him, not realizing how dangerous that could be, because she doesn't have... Tanya is the one who is the bad actor who left her in the lurch. She doesn't really have much knowledge about Greg, as far as I can remember. So I don't think she realizes quite what she's doing, but I think his reaction, or non-reaction, I should say, could have maybe tipped her off.
Yeah.
And then there's like a scene later on in the restaurant that I really liked, where she's looking at Greg, but Greg is looking at, I think, Chloe. That's his like partner, this model girlfriend he's brought along. And then Chloe's looking at Saxon, because they kind of made a connection this episode, if you remember.
When Saxon went outside and tried to flirt.
And then she basically called him a douche, but he liked it. Like they kind of had this flirtation going on. And I am excited for next week, because it sounds like a bunch of these characters are going to be on Greg's yacht.
Yes, that was...
So that's going to definitely be some explosive material there.
Did you like this episode overall?
I did like it. I think you're right. I think it was a slower burn. And of course, like Chelsea getting bitten by the snake was probably the height of the action, and there wasn't much action that happened otherwise. But I just feel like it it still kept my attention. I was still along for the ride.
Yeah, same. I didn't watch this and want to turn it off at all. I was like, oh, just in reflection by the end of it. Because I was still intrigued where it was going, but I was like, oh, just because it's leading up to something, especially it kind of crescendos with Belinda approaching Greg, but not in like hey, who are? It's like she was more genuine.
Like, to Tanya, probably because she wants to know what the hell happened to Tanya.
And then she gets walked back by who's the
Porn
Chai, and then at the door.
His line is so funny.
Because about not drinking very much.
No, because I don't usually drink a lot. He goes, I hope that you have sweet dreams. What did he say? That I have dreams.
I hope you have sweet dreams and that I have sweet dreams too.
And then she went in, Linda's like, okay. And then she goes inside. She's like, what are you dreaming of?
Oh, well, that's good. I thought it was even more funny though. She's like, oh, is that a Thai saying? And then he was like, no. And then there's a really awkward pause. And then he's like, good night. And then she's like, oh, okay. And something about their relationship that I'm trying to pin down is, we mentioned in the last episode, they like do them, Belinda sees him shirtless for the first time, and it seems like she is attracted to him. But to me, it doesn't really feel anything. It feels very like superficial attraction, because even when Porn Chai,
I'm pretty sure it's his name,
is at the door, like I don't feel like she like necessarily like wants to have a thing with him, and then when he abruptly says like goodbye, she's like, oh, okay, like she's not like necessarily hurt.
I was very surprised because it did seem like she was interested in him, but she was like, no, I don't know if that just shows she has really good boundaries, maybe.
I think that if you were attempt to kiss her, I feel like there was a big chance that she'd be like, actually, I'm like not interested in you.
That's intriguing. I think you're right. But yeah, I do think the episode ended in a scary place because she goes inside and hears that noise. And so you know danger is coming. Well,
because it comes off the heels of when she interacted with Greg.
I was scared.
And so you see, it's the noise, whatever it was, it sounded like a more like nature noise. It didn't sound like a person, but Belinda reacts in a way as if like someone's in her house. And then does she say like, oh.
She goes, what the hell was that noise? Or like
and then it cuts out and shows like other people in the village and someone else wakes up in the middle of the night? Or is that where it leads into the trio?
I think it cuts out. And then I don't know if it goes to the trio, but it eventually goes to, I think it again ends on Jason Isaacs in his bed, and he's still on the pill. He's about to fall asleep. And then Victoria Parker Posey asks him, is there something going on? He doesn't answer.
Yes, that's definitely how
Is there something going on? But I guess my interpretation of the episode is like something is going on, and for many of these characters, but we're all like Victoria. We're wrapped in our comforters, staring out at the tsunami, waiting for it to come in.
She wasn't waiting. She walked out into the ocean. She actively...
Let me walk into the drama of the White Lotus.
And it's a really, like, visually...
Stunning
image. Mm-hmm. Just, like, the huge crowd. It was, like, this wide shot, and you can just see, like, the duvet helps you see where she is, but there's just, like, huge crashing waves, like, hundreds of feet above her. It was really enchanting and alarming. So I had a friend... My friends Farron and Chris were discussing this show yesterday, and I think it's a theory that we posed before is, could this be a prequel to even season 1? Well, with
definitely not to season 1.
Everything that's laid out, it's been revealed. Belinda knows Greg, so they had to have met in Hawaii, which doesn't line up right. I think some other things happened that makes it impossible for that to have happened. But could this season 3 be sandwiched in between, somewhere between 1 and 2?
So...
Because an interesting point, if season 3 really falls after season 2, there's something about Belinda, the way she's acting, the way she seems to be so hurt by Tanya burning her, seems really like recent.
Fresh, and her sadness about Armand's death.
And so it just seems odd that she would be in Hawaii and like know that she needs to learn new wellness techniques and wait 3 years before going to Thailand.
Is that how long it would have been?
I think I see. With how like long it takes taking the show, doesn't mean that necessarily everything's lined up in that way, but it just seems odd like that it would take that long.
I understand what you're saying.
And then also, I guess it plays into the fact if I haven't seen, we don't necessarily know if it's been 3 years between.
Yeah, we don't really understand.
If it's a year between seasons.
There's no marker of time, really.
But yeah, just the fact that she like still can like identify Greg
so easily
and still be heard about Tanya, and then
sad about Armand.
Be sad about Armand and be motivated to go to Thailand to learn new wellness.
So that's kind of what my interpretation is too. But I will say that I went on Reddit after the episode, and a lot of Redditors were saying, "Thank God this puts to the death the prequel season idea. What a stupid idea! That's not how the White Lotus works. That's not the kind of show it is." So there's like a lot of very strong opinions that this is not a prequel. And I don't know, I just want to honor those voices and say, if we're wrong, sorry, we just think it'd be cool. People really don't like that idea. A lot of people are really bad about it. I was surprised. 'Cause I thought it'd be interesting.
Even if it's sandwiched between 1 and 2? Because they feel it's too gimmicky, or what's the reason?
I don't, they were just, they're saying like that's not the kind of show it is.
They were like, life is linear. I want my TV shows to be linear.
Maybe. I mean, maybe they think it's like not, if the idea, I think what would be compelling about a prequel is that, or maybe a fun twist, and also there's the opportunity then for other seasons to be prequels, so different actors, even those who have died, can come back, like Jennifer Coolidge, and perhaps people don't like that because dead should be dead in the world of a TV show, otherwise you're watching Marvel, where they can come back because of the multiverse or something that I don't understand.
What skewed my opinion is I loved Jennifer Coolidge in season 1 and 2. But probably on the same Reddit forum, people were like, oh, thank God Tanya's gone. She was so annoying. Like, a lot of people didn't like her. And it kind of like negatively influenced me too, where I was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of, maybe it's good that Tanya wasn't here. But the nice thing about sandwiching it between 1 and 3 is that Tanya could appear. That'd be a surprise in the season. But then how long can that gimmick really last? Like, always be surprised.
Then. Or it could be the kind of thing where this is a prequel, and this season doesn't have that kind of surprise, but it lets you know that other seasons could have that kind of surprise, which could be a fun.
Yeah, because who knows, in season 4 or 5, like, Aubrey Plaza might appear in another White Lotus location. I forget what her fate was in the end of season 2, but
she survived.
They could all be intertwined. It's kind of like, because the White Lotuses are kind of like Marriott's, right? Like,
no, they're the 4 seasons.
That's okay. There's 4 seasons all over different countries.
Okay.
I mean, just kind of like, it's a chain in a way. Yes, it's very expensive and lavish. But someone who might have the White Lotus, like that they visit one in Hawaii, they'd also visit one in Thailand, they might also visit in Italy. They could bounce between all the different White Lotuses.
That was another sad thing I saw online where people were wondering, I wonder if eventually there'll be a White Lotus in a cold location, like an Alps skiing vacation. I was imagining all the characters in their cool ski outfits. I was very into this, and then someone commented and said, "Oh no, Mike White's been quoted as saying he hates the cold weather."
So we'll never get there.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Any other thoughts about any of the characters or anything? I mean, my favorite part of the episode was probably Jacqueline and Kate and Lori talking about politics, and just the face Leslie Bibb made when they asked her if she voted for Trump. Genius acting.
She's really good.
Like, hilarious, uncomfortable. And I was surprised that they used the word Trump, to be honest. Like, I think it's very cutting, it's very satirical, but they kind of don't necessarily position it so close in time. And I think it was a bold move, and I personally like that.
Yeah. And just to speak to Leslie's acting too, is her reaction, you could take it as she's like hurt, but hiding it. Or
to hearing the gossip?
When she first brings up that she's an independent. Like, in that moment, she could be right there being like, hurt but trying to mask it, or she could genuinely like not understand that they are judging her, and then at the end of the episode is when she like overhears it and realizes they were judging her.
True.
But I think I think she's really smart, and I think that she was hurt at the table and knew it was going to lead to the gossip happening.
I thought that what she was doing in that moment was projecting this idea of like, not that we shouldn't talk politics, but come on, you guys. Like, are we really going to go down to that base level and assuming it doesn't matter so much if she voted for Trump, but kind of rolling her eyes at the very idea that they would be
judging her for it?
Like, and I'm not saying that she's not smart, but I feel like she was kind of employing a strategy that she's maybe used in mixed political circles before, where people decide to look the other way for the sake of going along to get along, and these are her 3 best friends, and she thought they would do that for her, which is insane because this entire season they've been talking about one another behind
each other's back.
Their back. Because she looked pretty upset.
She was upset at the end of the episodes.
She looked pretty devastated.
Yeah.
And I like comparing their 3 reactions. So Carrie Coon's reaction was to sob hysterically at the window and then eventually go downstairs and bang her way back into the conversation.
Yes. Her sob, though, she didn't necessarily know that they were gossiping about her yet.
No.
She walks off and was so hurt that they were ignoring her to her face. Then she sobs. Then she realizes that they're probably talking about her, and then she decides to interrupt.
Well, I think she sees them and then screams.
Yeah.
And then goes, I mean, who knows if she thought they were talking about her or not, but it just, she she has this big emotional reaction.
Right. She feels like the outlier. She's the one
Yes.
that's ignored. And then
And she's like, you will not ignore me.
Yeah.
You will not. Which I love. And then Jacqueline's response is so
she doesn't give
wonderful.
She doesn't give a fuck. She's like,
she
I'm gonna
cocks her head. She's like in the bedroom. She's like, they're probably talking about me. And then just turns and flounces away.
Yeah. What's the book? She's reading a book. Is it related to Thai culture?
The book was something. Yes, it was.
Was it
something related to
Valentino gave it to them?
I think it was something related to the well. It was like in their hotel room and something about the wellness, but I don't actually remember. And I thought it was hilarious. And then Kate, played by Leslie Bibb's response was the most interesting to me because she just looks so wounded.
And because we've built on, like, we've been watching this, it's all been happening linear with them, and we understand, like, this is the first time Kate is outside of the gossip.
Yes.
Like, she's the one that's been able to gossip both times. And then they each have a turn at seeing the other people gossip
they're
about
rotating.
them. And so, yeah, like you
Which
said.
I fully anticipated happening.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think one of them maybe... I personally thought they were eventually all going to be the one who was the outlier, just based on their dynamic, which feels really real to me. I feel like that
I think
I've
it
seen
naturally
that.
kind of happens. But what's interesting with Kate is, like, to say that about, like, come on, we're not going to, like, get into politics, is meaning that she has, like, other friends that are, like, women also that are like, secret Trump voters.
Yes.
And be like,
Come on,
don't worry, I voted
you're
for
so
you.
naive here for kind of raising this point, and are we really going to drag down our lovely evening with this silly talk of politics?
And why? Yes, they are, because even if they don't agree with the Trump, they finally have something to complain
Bond
about,
over.
to bond over, yeah.
But yeah, that was my favorite part of the episode, I would say. That and Belinda's confrontation with Greg, maybe. And I also I'm interested, is her life going to be under threat almost every single episode? I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah.
In some way.
She's been shot at, she's been bitten by a snake.
That's it so far.
And
they zeroed in that first, when the robbery happened, when Chelsea was in the store, she was looking at a snake necklace or bracelet.
Whoa.
So what's going on? Who's the snake? Is it Rick? Is it somebody else? Is she the snake? And then Rick said an interesting line about snakes. He said, I felt bad for them. Chelsea goes, they're evil. And he goes, yes, but even evil things deserve like our understanding, or else they'll become more evil. Which I thought was a great
It's a good line from Rick especially.
and I'm interested in his character too, because it feels too easy for him to be going on a murder mission. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's really what it is, because it certainly seems sinister.
I wouldn't be mad about it.
Yeah. I just would want it to be a little bit more complicated. I don't know why I'm stirring. I just want the pot to be stirred a little bit more. Anyway, that's what's happening on The White Lotus, Season 3, Episode 3? The Meaning of Dreams. Have you had any good dreams recently? Any interesting dreams recently?
No, you?
No.
Oh well. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, interact. We also have a Severance series and a Yellow Jacket series. And then, of course, our main podcast, Queers on the Couch, where we talk about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens. As always, I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
Thank you for listening.